Hollow Knight Silksong, Hornet has two moves that could be considered a parry. If you time your needle swing just right, it can deflect an enemy's attack, giving you just a moment of iframes, effectively allowing you to parry certain attacks. But that's not the kind of parry I'm talking about. This is. And you can get used to that beautiful sound of landing a well-timed cross-stitch, because for today's video, that's all I'll be doing. Well, mostly. Welcome to the parry-only challenge.
Will you join me, starving wolf?
There's just two things. Well, there's three things I'm starting with. The first thing, obviously, is the parry, so I can fight enemies in the beginning of the game. Then I'm also starting with all three silk hearts, or I'm giving myself a silk regeneration of 3. That actually technically can be upgraded throughout the game, but maybe we'll just manually keep it to 3, to keep things like balanced, I guess. I mean, it would be balanced either way. And then last but not least, we are also giving Weave Light, because in vanilla, without modifying anything, the only way to get enough silk to do parries is to either use Weave Light or Egophilia, and I think using Weave Light along with all three thingies makes the most sense. So, fun fact, it actually is completely possible to be able to use silk skills infinitely without ever having to hit enemies to build up silk. There are 2 tools in the game that make this possible: the Egophilia and Weave Light, the latter of which we'll be using for this challenge. It speeds up passive silk regeneration and adds 1 notch to the silk regen max. So, with the max of 3 from the base game, plus the 4th from Weave Light, all it takes is a little bit of waiting, and bam, as many cross stitches as a man could want. Now, normally this setup would only be possible late into Act 2. Weave Light and the cross stitch skill itself are accessible throughout Act 1, and there are 2 silk upgrades from the Unraveled and Lace 2 within Act 2. And that is where the mods come in. I've altered my save file to start with a total of 3 silk hearts, the Weave Light tool, and the cross stitch skill itself. Those are obviously what's required for the challenge, but you'll notice a few quality of life mods as well. An infinite rosary mod to save time on annoying grinding, and a side quest auto-completer mod to save time on annoying grinding. I'm not sure how I feel about using such a powerful quality of life mod in a challenge run. I don't necessarily think it goes against the spirit of the challenge. Like, spending an hour grinding rosaries off stream or having to get the silver bells after beating Widow every playthrough doesn't exactly add much to the experience, but let me know what you think in the comments below. I've already committed to not playing with any quality of life mods for my next challenge, so we can decide if they'll stick around after that point. With Lace defeated, we can enter the far fields and run into a few interesting obstacles. The Hokers you need to farm only drop their spines if you hit them, and I can only hit an enemy if they hit me first. So what now? Well, with the right timing, I can activate the parry while jumping into even a stationary enemy to trigger the cross stitch, allowing me to even attack passive enemies. Next is the 4th chorus, who is always a pleasure in these challenge runs. They're one of the only bosses that is ever really out of reach, so finding a way to damage them is harder than actually dodging their attacks. As you can see, with the right positioning, it's possible to get a parry in on either of the boss's attacks. It's a long fight, and it does take me a couple tries, but thankfully I can cut it short by using the timeless strategy of dropping a big old rock on the boss's head to end the fight. With the 4th chorus defeated, we can move on to Greymore and the rest of Act 1. For obvious reasons, I don't need to get the Threadstorm, so I can head straight towards Bellheart, make long and tedious work of Moorwing, and enter the Ensnared City. As we all know, only Hornet is able to free this sleeping city, so we'll need to make our way through the Shellwood to acquire the wall jump and defeat Widow. There's only one problem. Without being able to pogo the enemy and get double jump early, I'll have to actually fight Sister Splinter. Ugh. Feel like some sort of peasant. In all seriousness, this does become a pretty major roadblock. Sister Splinter makes for a pretty tough boss for this challenge for a few reasons. Normally, you want to deal with her summons quickly so they don't build up and overwhelm you, but being forced to wait several moments in between each parry to build enough silk, plus having to always react to an enemy's attack rather than be aggressive on my own terms, Sister Splinter can usually just summon the next wave of adds by the time I take out the first. Combine that with her being another boss that likes to hang out at the top of the screen, and it makes for a pretty challenging fight overall. And this seems relevant to maybe mention, I can pretty much never heal for this challenge since I can't hit enemies normally to build up silk, so I have to do all these fights with no heals. For now, the most I can do is leave a cocoon from the previous attempt and use it for a one-time heal throughout the fight. But thankfully, it's pretty common for the boss to kill her own minions, saving me the trouble of having to deal with them every once in a while. It takes a solid half hour of attempts, but let's be real. If this early of a boss was some huge challenge, the late game of this run would be basically impossible. Sister Splinter puts up a decent fight for the early game, but she falls before too long. And we collect our reward, the wall jump. With it, we can challenge the next foe, Widow. What? Like, what do you mean? That's like, what is even there that hits me? Okay, I'm not gonna do it again though. Okay, here we go. Fuck, bro. I was one parry off. I get hit there. That sucks. Fuck, dude. Why am I reading chat like a chud? One HP and the MFing Dreamboat. Oh, my mic is gonna fall. Not much to note about that fight. Widow puts up a decent challenge, but Sister Splinter made for a more interesting challenge, and Widow went down after a couple of tries. And as an immediate reward, our first needle upgrade. With literally just one way to damage enemies, options to upgrade that damage are few and far between. Needle upgrades do increase the damage of Silk skills, which makes them one of said few ways. And while not an upgrade to DPS, Mask and Silk Fragments are one of the only other forms of progression for this run, since I never really get any new weapons, spells, or tools, so I make sure to grab any along the way. With that being said, there aren't any more ways to improve my damage output in Act 1, so I'm taking the quickest route available for me to enter Act 2, the Mist. Plus, I mean, it's only right to kill Phantom as early as possible in this run, with them being the boss that gives you the cross stitch in a normal run. It always feels good to first try a boss. Doesn't feel good to get a useless duplicate reward though. And with the exhaust organ opened up, Hornet enters the grand capital of this land, Farloom's holy citadel.
Behold the lightning of
Having taken the Phantom path to enter Act 2, I get easy access to Songclave early, so I pick up the white key and ring the bell. At this point, I'd normally rush a path, focusing on getting Clawline and Double Jump, killing the Cogwork Dancers, going through the Whispering Vaults, and killing Trobio to do so. But we're mixing things up this time. Today, the path is taking Hornet through an early entrance into the White. The Underworks, where the Clawline is found, is also accessible through this area. And the Underworks also serves as a pretty solid central hub, being a convenient fast travel point for a few important areas later. But for now, the only thing we're here for is the claw line, so let's grab it and get the heck out of here. We're not done with our little alternate path quite yet, as the goal I have in mind also requires the double jump to get. I mention this in every playthrough, but only because it's relevant in every playthrough. Mount Fae is one of the few areas that's basically an exception to the rules of the challenge. There are some shenanigans with using Sharp Dart and some cocoon skips to climb the mountain without claw line, but as far as I know, even using those methods, I'd still be breaking the rules of the challenge by using Sharp Dart on enemies. If there is another way to get through this area that I just don't know about, let me know in the comments. I'm more than open to trying this area a little differently, and even though I personally don't view it as an end-all be-all, it would be nice to not have an asterisk to the rules of the playthrough. Anyway, double jump is acquired. With the double jump, it's time to return to Act 1. Having all these movement upgrades really trivializes the blasted steps, and we have to fight one of the two bosses required for this little alternate path. The first Conchfly fight is no problem though, and I take it down on the first try. Which brings us to the sands of Karak, and you can probably tell what the whole point of this adventure has been by now. If not, let me explain. I made the decision to take an extremely optimized path through Act 2, fighting as few bosses as possible while getting as powerful as possible as early as possible. Earlier, I touched on how few options there are when it comes to upgrading my damage. It just so happens that the Sands of Karak has one of those options. It's just locked behind needing the double jump. The cross stitch, being a silk skill, is massively buffed by the Volt Filament tool, and that tool can be unlocked by defeating this guy, the Volt Worm. Here's the basic idea. Get this tool as early as possible before fighting any Act 2 bosses. Having it from the very start of Act 2 will make things much easier, which is definitely needed. Bosses in this challenge take much longer than normal since I have to play the waiting game for my silk to regenerate in between every hit. The Voltworm... what a weird name to say, by the way. Voltworm. Voltworm. Anyway, the Volt Worm puts up a good fight, taking around 30 minutes of attempts, but trust me, nothing will get in the way of Hornet learning the lightning of Farloom and adding it to her own arsenal. And of course, everyone knows that robot-type enemies are weak to lightning damage, so I'm able to Volt-infused parry the pair of Robo-Homos to death. And as I'm writing this part of the script on June 1st, and this seems pretty on topic for what I'm currently doing, happy Pride Month, people. With access to the Whispering Vaults, even more DPS upgrades become available. There's just a straight up pale oil to find in this area. This upgrade puts me in a great spot to do some housekeeping for this run. I am quite strong, and I've been playing quite fast, so there are plenty of things I can go back and do. As I go through each area, I make sure to grab any fleas or any silk or health upgrades. As I said, plenty of upgrades currently available. One of the most convenient entrances to Thilewater is to the Whispering Vaults, so I drop in now and unlock the Bell B station here. I swing by Hunter's March, which has a few goodies within. Mainly, I'm here to clear the Chapel of the Beast, which is necessary for a Mass Shard later down the line and for the Beast Crest itself. I don't actually want to use it, oh, definitely not that, but the progress for the Vesper Crest will come in handy for the extra tool slots later. Next up is what's probably my least favorite area in the game, the Deep Docks. There are a handful of upgrades to get here, and the next boss of the run, Cygnus and Gron. These fellows are a required boss for finishing the run, and it's always best to take them out while you're still in Act 2. So that's exactly what I do. After collecting a few more upgrades from a few more areas, I end the Act 1 backtrack in a very fitting way, fighting the boss that normally ends Act 1, the Last Judge. I was never worried. Were you ever worried, gamers? At this point, I am pretty overpowered for this boss, having a full 2 extra health upgrades from what you normally have, and doing like double the damage. This over preparation allows me to manage a first try against the boss, despite an honestly not so clean fight. We have got one more big upgrade to get before tackling the big fights of Act 2, and it's staring straight at us through this evil display case. The second pale oil is the reward for what is probably the single biggest side quest of the game, the Great Taste of Farloom. We do have a nice head start on this quest with one ingredient gathered already. I made sure to grab the crust nut while I was in the sands of Karak to get the Volt Filament tool, which leaves 4 ingredients left. So I start with what is probably the easiest one, the Mossberry Stew. The Moss Druid's home isn't too far from a fast travel point, so it's a very quick journey to make it here. And after a visit to the halfway home for some sweet vintage nectar is disgraced Chef Lugoli, and what's probably the hardest of the ingredients to obtain, the Pickled Muck Maggot. It's not that Lugoli is an especially hard boss, they really aren't too tough, and I actually win the fight on my first try. But as the only ingredient with an actual boss guarding it, it has the title. And last is the ingredient that I would have called the hardest on my first playthrough, the Courier's Rasher. Now, however, with so many hundreds of hours mastering the movement in this game, making it from Bellheart to the Royal Mergwyn in the time limit is like a fun little warm-up. And just like that, quest complete. Oh yeah. With this needle upgrade, Hornet is officially at max power, at least until Act 3. So I'd say now is as good a time as any to actually start making progress in Act 2. There are 4 major goals for this act. The threefold melody, which includes the Architect's melody, the Vault Keeper's melody, and the Conductor's melody. And 4th is Grohl the Great, a boss guarding a required item to enter Act 3. Having double jump makes for an easy climb through the towers of the Cogwork Core, and we kick things off by obtaining the Architect's melody. The plan is to grab the Vault Keeper's melody next, so it's finally time to fight Trobio. And I do mean finally fight him. This is honestly probably the longest I've gone without fighting Trobio on any of my playthroughs. As I mentioned at the start of the act, I usually rush this guy to get clawline as early as possible. So it's about time. Goodbye, Trobio. Hello, Vault Keeper's melody. Damn, I'm practically turning this into a boss rush. Next up are the High Halls. I've been very thorough about getting fast travel points and opening up shortcuts as I've ran around the map, so I have really just been able to go from melody to melody to melody for these last couple of objectives. Yeah, 11 waves of enemies with no healing is still pretty damn tough. When they do that, they can't hit me. Guys, this high hall shit is actually easy. Oh, that was stupid, obviously. Well, if I die here, I'm gonna be mad. Okay. Easy. More like cheesy, bro. I 0% should ever be proud of how I won that. But you gotta do what you gotta do. And the final melody is acquired. We're not quite ready to finish up the act yet, but I am still gonna head up the Elevator of Destiny and fight Lace 2. The reward for this fight is a Silk Heart, which has a pretty cool interaction in this playthrough. This actually isn't even the first Silk Heart I've got, since I did get one from the Bell Beast oh so long ago, but I kind of glossed over it then. As I mentioned at the start of the video, I started with the usual max of 3 Silk Hearts for this playthrough. But what happens when I get more throughout the playthrough? Well, it's not that crazy. Basically exactly what you'd imagine happens. The max amount of silk I can regen goes up. With Weave Light equipped, that's a theoretical max of 7 silk once I have all the Silk Hearts. It's just shy of actually being able to cast the cross stitch twice in a row, but it's still nice to have a higher max silk regardless, so I do want to grab every Silk Heart. I've also been collecting the pieces of the Cogwork Heart, so I stopped by and revived the second Sentinel. The reward for their quest line will be extremely useful, but we'll get to that later. Speaking of those Silk Hearts, we have just one last stop in the White Word, the Unravel. This hidden boss drops the last Silk Heart we need, so as one of the few avenues of meaningful progression available to me in this challenge, this dude was definitely on my kill list. As you can imagine, it was a very tedious, drawn-out fight, but it is one that I managed on my first try. Without further ado, Bilewater time. It is a little bit of a struggle to get through this area without being able to use the enemies to assist with the platforming, but it's not something that's impossible, and I can always just brute force it with my Cocoon. As always, gotta make sure to find this hidden bench. After all, I'll take a run back through only half of Bilewater over all of it any day. It actually ends up being more important than ever for this playthrough, as having no reliable heal means the fight doesn't start when I enter the boss arena, it starts as soon as I leave the bench. Even then, finishing the run back to the arena isn't over just because I got here. Grohl has a 5-wave enemy gauntlet that must be done for every single attempt. And remember, limited healing. Thankfully, 5 waves is actually quite short compared to some of the harder gauntlets in Silksong, so it's usually a minor roadblock right before the boss itself. Okay, Grohl, let's do this. Close one. The mantle almost fucked me over there again there. It's like the same thing that happened last time. It's really stupid. Just fucking stood there and watched that happen. Didn't even like make an attempt to dodge. Because I know I can just hide in the corner when he summons and never take damage. Stand corrected. I don't stand corrected. This is still the run. Don't get it twisted. But I've taken more than one hit so far. I don't stand corrected. With Grohl defeated, we can collect our reward and get the hell out of here. And no more delays. All of the objectives required for entering Act 3 are completed. So it's finally time to, well, enter it. After climbing up the cradle, Hornet comes face to face with Farloom's very own higher being, Grandmother Silk. Let's do this. That's what I fucking thought, bitch. Get lit, bro. Get fucking smacked up, bro. That's what I fucking thought. Okay. No, don't grab me. Oh my god. My queen. Oh, my queen. They're so in love with each other. Look, she saved me. I think Act 2 is probably the best act overall, but Silksong's Act 3 has, in my opinion, the coolest first few hours of any game, specifically for a first playthrough. Waking up and re-exploring the ruined version of an area that you spent so many hours getting familiar with, combined with the unsettling gut punch / jump scare that is the Bell Eater popping up in the place of the Bell Beast. And while the Bell Eater isn't cracking anyone's top 5 list in terms of boss quality, it still makes for a unique and interesting fight, especially on that first playthrough. Not to mention what is probably the coolest ending to any of the fights in the game. Fuck yeah, Bellby, get his ass. And speaking of gut punches, this gets followed up by the reveal that the Caretaker and friends are a group of snail shamans. Yes, by this point we all know this ahead of time, but think back to your first playthrough of the game. I know that we were all going crazy seeing more of these guys, but we're only halfway done because that's not even the craziest part. Especially if you've already defeated Cygnus and Gron, so you don't have to interrupt this sequence of the game by fighting them. You can head straight through the deep docks to reach the diving bell, where that's right, you return to the abyss. The game really had an awesome callback to Hollow Knight with the snail shamans, then completely overshadowed it with the entrance to the abyss. It's down here we get an idea of just how truly fucked over Farloom is if Hornet isn't able to set things right. And we get a downright awesome movement ability that will finally open up the rest of the map and return to the surface in what is easily the coolest platforming sequence that both Hollow Knight games have to offer. Whew. I hope I have been able to convey to you why I said that Silksong's Act 3 has some of the coolest opening hours in gaming. It's mostly unexpected plot twists and excellent set pieces, but that's why I specified that it really hits hard on that first playthrough. I still enjoy this part of the game on all my runs, but yeah, nothing really compares to what it was like to get through all of that blind. With all of that done, the main objective of Act 3 is set. We'll need to gather at least 3 of the memory hearts, held by some of the strongest champions of Farloom's history before the final encounter of the game, Lost Lace. Before we get to all of that though, I think it makes sense to spend some time getting stronger. And to help us with this, we can claim the crest of the Snail Shamans. It grants a 40% damage buff to all of Hornet's Silk skills, and I don't need to explain why we would want that. Next up, at the far edge of the far fields, is Dashmaster Swift. Defeating him in a few races rewards me with yet another health upgrade. And after a little bit of leftover flea hunting, this squad knows the best way to deal with the world-ending apocalypse. Getting fucking lit! Which results on Hornet getting her hands on the last bit of the mythical needle sharpening oil that, for whatever reason, the fleas had. With this, the final needle upgrade is obtained, meaning that we have officially reached max power for this playthrough. We have a few more upgrades to get defensively, but our DPS has finally reached its peak. Nice. It's also finally time to cash in on the second Sentinel side quest, so we have to defeat them next. Funnily enough, I actually have done this fight with doing Parry only before, just as a little fun side challenge. This time, I have an entire build dedicated to the Parry, so they go down on the first try without too much trouble. The reward for this boss is the Reserve Bind, allowing for 1 free heal at any time. Since I can't reliably heal otherwise, this is effectively 3 health upgrades rolled into a single tool slot. Very helpful for these challenging endgame encounters. And speaking of challenging encounters, we're gonna start off with the most challenging of the bunch, Crust King Khan and the Coral Tower. Fuck, man. I guess I should say we'll try to start off with the hardest. I was seriously not expecting to get my butt kicked by this so hard, especially with all of the upgrades I currently have. For some extra context, this is actually my second round of attempts against the tower. In a previous session, I spent over an hour attempting the gauntlet to no avail. Since then, I've acquired the last nail upgrade and the Reserve Bind tool, which I was sure would make all the difference. After another hour of my life wasted with failed attempts, I decided it'll be better to just come back and try this again later. No consistent heals obviously makes all the fights much harder, but I find that it makes the more long and drawn out enemy gauntlets significantly harder compared to the rest of the boss fights. So with that being said, we'll fight a couple bosses. Starting out with Seth, the Shrine Guardian. Seth is an interesting boss, a very fun fight, but also quite an unusual one. He has a very tricky moveset. It's super different from how you would guess a knight with a sword and shield would fight. He kind of reminds me of Chakra with how he dashes so frequently around the arena, featuring an AoE slam as one of his main attacks. It's the kind of fight that can be overwhelming at first, but once you really understand the moveset, it actually becomes pretty simple. And back to back with Seth is the fight against Nylet. Usually, this is the more simple fight between the two, but this time it's reversed. Things start out completely pretty normal. Dodge the boss for long enough to build up Silk, wait for the right attack, and land a parry. Phase 2 is where things change. With no safe ground in the arena, you're normally expecting to make a combined use of your movement abilities, the claw line, and pogo attacks to keep up throughout the fight. Without being able to pogo or claw line Nihilith, my options are severely limited. Not to mention having to account for getting back to the wall safely after every successful parry, and accounting for where Horn is positioning after the parry is finished, and this fight becomes a very interesting puzzle. Please enjoy the fight. Second phase. Caught it. Hold it. Huge. Whew. It took a few attempts to get a feel for the fight, but we still have much greater challenges ahead, so we aren't stopping here. After the Nihilith victory, I took a crack at the Coral Tower again, only to make very little progress before running out of time for the day. So, on the next stream, with a nice break and fresh eyes, I got it on my first attempt of the day. Let's review. The Coral Tower consists of 3 gauntlets in a row, a checkpoint, 1 last gauntlet, and then King Khan himself. The first few waves are easy enough, and with all my damage, I'm able to one-shot most enemies with a well-timed parry. For certain enemies, I have more than just the parry as well, since I can deflect the Yago's projectiles to indirectly deal damage. This wave of 3 conch flies can be annoying since they can burrow into the ground and avoid damage, but a well-positioned parry can trivialize the wave. The rest of the first gauntlet is pretty consistent, with nothing too crazy just yet. As long as I can manage the spawn order of the enemies and focus on taking out the more dangerous ones first, I can usually get through this first gauntlet without even taking any damage. The second gauntlet is a huge difficulty spike from the first. These guys, for example, I fucking hate. Like, I despise them so much. I don't even know why. I just want you all to know that I hate them. Luckily, I do one-shot them, so I can usually take care of them quickly. Difficulty really starts ramping up as coral spikes pop out, making the arena itself significantly more dangerous. Combine that with multiple waves of annoying enemies, and timing things to get a double kill really is crucial. Killing this guy basically serves as the halfway point in the gauntlet, with the toughest waves all at the end. The second to last wave consists of 2 more conch flies, this time with spikes covering half of the ground. Again, I have to choose the right time to parry them, otherwise they'll just avoid any damage by digging into the ground. The last wave has 2 Carrick Gore enemies, so I really have to take my time and find safe opportunities to take them out. Going into the final gauntlet with full HP, that's how you know that this is the run, boys. I make sure to take out the most annoying enemy first for this wave, and it's easy to clean up the rest from here. I hate them. The next wave is a real doozy, with several waves of flying enemies to deal with and spikes covering the middle of the arena at the same time. It's unfortunate to slip up so bad so early, but I get hit 3 times throughout this wave. Fortunately, the next couple waves are pretty easy. It's just important to be mindful of the spikes covering both walls. Even the Bubble Man isn't really a threat when he's by himself, and he'll go down in just 2 parries. The Spined Beak Kai are secretly some of the most annoying enemies here. They're usually no problem since they go down so quickly, but they're just unpredictable enough to take a mask from me before I can take care of them. Fuck these guys for real. But the next wave isn't so bad, especially when the enemies do me the favor of killing themselves on the nearby spikes. And here, easily the trickiest section where our practice in the Nihilith fight is gonna really pay off. The entire floor is spiked up, meaning we'll need to kill the next few waves while staying on the walls. Okay, this is it, the final wave. It's 2 very simple enemies, but with only 2 health remaining, 1 mistake, and I'm dead. Oh my god. What a relief. Beating the 3rd gauntlet means that I can get this shortcut, skipping straight to this point for any future attempts. That being said, the 4th gauntlet is a piece of cake compared to the last 2, and Khan himself goes down without too much trouble. And with just 1 required heart remaining, it's time for the best fight in this damn game, Carmelita. I went for the parry. I was just a split second too late. Okay, phase 2. We got about half of our health remaining. Jump. Hey, okay. Final phase. We got 1 hit. We got 1 mistake left to make. Oh, I want to poker her off that so bad, boys. Believe me when I say it. Oh my. Okay. A little bit is genuinely not over, bro. Trust me, it's real. Little bit of a scuff dodge on that one. Just stay locked. This is genuinely not over, bro. More than 1 HP and a dream, bro. You've heard of 1 HP and a dream before. I'm introducing more than 1 HP and a dream. Trust me, it's real. I think we got it, boys. We're in the fucking zone right now. I think we can make it. Yes! I love this fight, bro. Woo, I love this fight, man. Carmelita, it just feels so good to do, bro. With Carmelita defeated, we officially have everything we need. Once we head back to the Snail Shamans, we can finally use their spell to tread the depths of Hornet's memories. It's here we'll obtain the Everbloom, the last thing we need to brave the Void of the Abyss and finish this quest. I feel like I'm back at the start of the act with how cool this sequence is. Ballo was kind enough to repair the diving bell so we can reuse our original entrance, quickly make our way through the abyss for one final time, and confront the hardest enemy in Hollow Knight Silksong, the true final boss. I'm just a little silly guy sometimes. The final battle vibes. Oh, shit. All right, Lace, round 2. Let's get it. This is the only way for me to do so. And of course, I fucking warned you guys. The first fucking try on the final boss of the game. And that was the video. Thank you so much for watching. This challenge idea was one that I've had for a long time, so I'm glad I finally did it. If you liked what you saw in this video, the best way to let me know is to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on mobile, you can also hype the video, which really helps with performance. And of course, I'll do my best to keep these videos coming as frequently as I can. My next big goal for the channel is to reach 10,000 subscribers. I've got a long way to go, but I know it's possible. I truly think 2026 is going to be a great year for this channel, so you can think of your support now as an early investment. And a huge shout out to the channel members. It's still a small list, but Nana, John Deere, and Finn Legends, thank you so much. If you want to go above and beyond to support the channel, you can become a member for as little as $1 a month to receive access to exclusive emotes, end of video shoutouts, and more in the future. And of course, one last thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.